Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. We are live with WCW Nitro, December 18th, 1995, in the Augusta Richmond County Civic Center in Augusta, Georgia. We got Eric Bischoff. We got Mongo. We got Bobby the Brain Heenan. And who is this? Is that Alundra Blayze? No, it's Madusa. And she's got the WWF Women's title, and it's going in the trash. With me is Joseph Rojas to tell me what he thinks about this, because I know he's got thoughts. Joseph?
Oh my God, it's Madusa. Hell yeah. Look, I have been talking about the previous Alundra Blayze for a long time, how much of a fan of her I am. Madusa I think she starts this off with, I have been and always will be Madusa, or something like that, something along those lines. That's not untrue. Madusa was her ring name for many years in AWA and her short time originally in WCW and all over in Japan for the thing she was wrestling for two different companies over there. She's always been Madusa before she went to WWF. So this really is a statement for her of like, I'm back, which is really cool. Also, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. This gets an A+ for me. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. Is it the best mic work? No, she falls apart a little bit towards the end of it. The iconic moment of her throwing the WWF Women's Championship into the trash can. It has been played for years and years and years. It will continue to be played. It is phenomenal. It's a great image. It's a great moment in wrestling history. She regularly brings it up when she went to her Hall of Fame speech for WWE. When she went to her Hall of Fame speech, she brought it back. She pulled the trash can up and brought it back out of the trash can. It was a fun moment. Madusa's great. Love Madusa. Love the moment. It's an A+. This is a historical moment in wrestling history. If you've never watched it, go watch it. What are you doing? What are we doing? Scott, watch it.
And there you have it. Well, good night, everybody. No, just kidding. Just kidding. You're right. This is one of the biggest moments in wrestling, which, that may sound crazy to say, but it really is. It reverberates. It has such importance. It actually leads. I mean, this is the moment that leads to the Montreal Screwjob, which is another one of the biggest moments in wrestling history. It's because of this. That's how big this is. And this is how earth-shattering this was in 1995 wrestling. It's huge. And we're excited. WCW, at least for a little while, actually does a women's division. So we'll get to see Madusa in action. They get rid of it pretty fast, but we get some Madusa for a while. So we're excited for it.
You know what I'm most excited for, Scott? Do you know what I'm most excited for?
Tell me about it. I want to know. I really want to know.
I'm going to have to listen to friggin' Jerry the King Lawler make horrible comments about this woman for seemingly no reason anymore.
It's handled so much better, right, on WCW. And we're all the better for it. The commentary table, clearly there's a security problem at the commentary table. People are getting up on the stage with the talent. And as you know, Bobby and Eric and Mongo are talent. So Mongo calls out a friend. He's got William the Refrigerator Perry to protect them from future interruptions. Heenan goes to shake Perry's hand, and he screams in pain. That dude's got a firm grip, Joseph. What do you think about this?
I love that, actually. I know it's weird, but I actually really love that they just randomly brought in William the Refrigerator Perry. If you don't know who this is, notable player for the Chicago Bears for many years. So of course, that's why you would have, the connection with him and Mongo, because Mongo, his whole career was with the Chicago Bears.
Da Bears.
So the interesting thing about the Fridge or William the Refrigerator Perry is that he's a defensive player. Mongo was also a defensive player. Refrigerator Perry was a defensive tackle, but he was so good at bulldozing. The Bears would actually use him often on the offensive side as like a fullback. So you have your running backs, and then you have a fullback who's usually someone who will run with the ball, but they often provided blocking for the running back. But every once in a while, they would just hand it off to the fridge if they were like on the 1 yard line, because he would just bulldoze through because he's so massive and can get touchdowns. So it's a fun fact for all you sports fans out there, all three of you who are listening to this podcast who like sports too. But it's cool. It's more cross promotion between big names in other industries that are within entertainment and WCW. This is what needs to be happening. I'm sure Mongo hooked it up. I'm sure it was very seamless to make it happen. It's great.
I apologize for the silence, everyone, but this is a little inside baseball for you. Ohtani just signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Joseph and I are Dodger fans, so I am, while recording this podcast, gloating on the internet. So I apologize for pausing.
As we should be.
So I pause. So I'm pausing. I apologize for the pausing as I gloat. But yeah, the fridge is here, Joseph. That is exciting. But what's more exciting? We got a Ric Flair Eddie Guerrero match, which is actually I'm not kidding on this. I'm not being facetious. Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero sounds like a lot of fun. If you remember, this match was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago, but Ric Flair said, "Nah, you're not my level. Brian Pillman will wrestle you." Well, it's come full circle. We got the match. Ric Flair, Eddie Guerrero. Eddie gives Ric Flair a run for his money. And Flair has to cheat to win on good guy Eddie Guerrero, who would never lie, who would never cheat, who would never steal. Ric Flair cheats to win. He uses the ropes to hold Guerrero down for the pin. Ric Flair defeats Eddie Guerrero in 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Joseph, what did you think about this dastardly win?
I love this match. We had talked about it the previous week when it was supposed to happen, and how I felt like, wow, it kind of sucks. Even though we got a great match with him and Brian Pillman, how much it sucks that we don't get to see Flair versus Eddie Guerrero. And luckily, they made it up to us a few weeks later. I love this. It's fantastic. Look, do you even have to have seen this match to know that these two men are going to put on a good match? I mean, really, this is a prime example of WCW utilizing their talent on TV and putting on one banger show after another. For the most part, they have some slips, that's fine, but this is a match that you want to see. By this point, everybody who's a WCW fan knows Eddie Guerrero is phenomenal in the ring. He's going to have a moment in Starrcade, which is, I believe, a week away, where he's going, a little over a week, but he's going to have a promo and he falls all over himself. So he's not known for that yet. Obviously, he will much later in the future. But right now, this is a banger match to essentially start your program. Now, you've had the moment before with Madusa that started the program, but this is just continuing, riding that wave of momentum. I can't even remember without looking at my notes what happens in WWF, but just from these first two opening things, how could you compete with this?
The starting match for WWF is Jeff Jarrett and Fatu, which are fine wrestlers, but Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero. Ric Flair is a main eventer, and he's on your first match of the night again. And Eddie Guerrero, who's not a main eventer yet, but obviously is a main eventer. He becomes a main eventer. He becomes one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's actually probably already one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's very good already, but he's not the main eventer yet. But Ric Flair, main eventer, just going at it. Well, I mean, and he's your WCW champion now, isn't he? Didn't he win? No, he hasn't won. That's a spoiler. Cut that shit out. I just watched it. So the streams are getting crossed. You have Ric Flair. He's a main eventer versus Eddie Guerrero. Good match. Nothing more to say about it. I mean, what is there to say? It's a Ric Flair Eddie Guerrero match. Done. End of story. It's a good match. After that, though, Mean Gene. I'm sorry. I'll have to retake that. Mean Gene interviews Flair.
This is going to be so much fun to have to edit. I can't wait.
Leave this in. This is good
stuff. No, it's great. I love it.
It's good stuff. Mean Gene interviews Flair and Arn Anderson. Good guy Arn, though. He respects Paul Orndorff. But Orndorff learned not to mess with the Horseman last week when he got laid out. Kevin Sullivan and Jimmy Hart, they crashed the interview. They are upset that Pillman made a comment about them last week, too. Ric Flair doesn't know where the camera is, and my God, he can do nothing wrong. Joseph, what do you think about this?
What do I think about Mean Gene?
Well, beautiful.
So good. I'm not going to steal that from you. That's the one time I'm going to do it because I love listening to you do it all the time. but I'm hyped. I'm hyped, Scott, because it's a banger WCW. It's a banger day for the Dodgers organization, and we're just going to keep bringing it back. The funny thing is, more inside baseball, no pun intended.
Waggity smaggity do.
We're recording multiple episodes, so this may extend multiple weeks where you're like, dude, that happened like 4 weeks ago. Can you shut up about it already? No, we cannot. I'll try to, though. It's great. I love, by the way, Arn starts by talking about, he mentioned they're on a roll, and he mentions Newton's third law, which is that for every action, there's an opposite or equal reaction, basically referring to the Paul Orndorff bit, right? I wish he had then said, he does not say this, but I wish he had then said, and just like Newton's first law, an object in motion stays in motion, and there's no force in the WCW that is going to stop the four horsemen. That would have been great. No, because the reason I'm saying that is because then he would switch from the third to the first.
Oh, look at you, man.
That would have been so banger.
Look at you. We're only on episode 2 of this recording session, and we've already descended into madness, but I like it.
But he doesn't. And then Flair barely starts talking when the Taskmaster interrupts him. And he's telling Arn and Flair that he respects them, but they better keep Pillman in line, which I don't remember Pillman actually interrupting with anything Taskmaster did. So it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, he said, so when they laid out Orndorff, he was listing all the people that want to be horsemen, but aren't good enough to be horsemen. And the dungeon was in that list.
Okay, that's fair. Flair says there's no problem, and Arn immediately disagrees. And I love Arn for this, because Arn's always been the straight shooter, right? He's a man's man, right? This is it's so well done by Arn. Flair, like, hey, we don't got a problem. And Arn's like, no, we do. We do have a problem, actually. And he says, let me hammer this nail. If you come looking for Pillman, you just might find Flair and Anderson. And that is such a great line. Like that's a movie-worthy line. It's so good. The question I do have, and we'll kind of see how far this goes, but was this what starts the inevitable Benoit and Taskmaster storyline? Was it supposed to be Taskmaster with Brian Pillman? Because Brian Pillman doesn't last much longer in this company that I can remember. And did they just have to kind of pivot and put that storyline on Benoit? Because we'll actually see, we're gonna spoil a little bit. They kind of pivot immediately at Starrcade, and we'll talk more about it in Starrcade. But it's weird. The one thing I will say is, this is, to me, from what we've watched so far, I'm not going to take his entire body of work and disrespect it, because I don't know much about Kevin Sullivan prior to WCW and really prior to this era. But in this run that we've had, to me, this is the absolute best we have seen from Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster. He is so, like I can feel the passion in it. He's got a point. His point is proven. He's ready to throw down. He's, the Boston Battler that you kind of really want to see, Scott. I love this. This whole segment is an A for me. I don't know if I'm riding the wave of positivity from what we've seen so far in the night, but this is another really crisp, clean segment that I enjoy.
After In Your House 5, this is a shot. This whole night so far has been a shot in the arm, right?
Yeah,
that's why we're so hyped. Like, yeah, there's good wrestling. You're right. This is the Kevin Sullivan I like. Kevin Sullivan is the booker. So he's booking him and his guys to the moon, and it has been, I don't think the results have been great. But this angle, I like this angle. I like Kevin Sullivan when he's just this brawler battler guy. I like it. I like when he's just this Boston dude. Just be the Boston dude. You don't have to be the 4D chess Taskmaster. Just be yourself, man. I like it when you're yourself. Just be you, bro. And you're right. The pivot, Starrcade, there's just a pivot for absolutely no reason. And we'll get there. It's just, so maybe you're right. Maybe this was supposed to be a Pillman Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan feud, and Pillman leaves, but I think Pillman comes back. I don't know if he's gone yet. We'll have to look. But yeah, they just pivot for no reason. So we'll get to that. After that, though, Sergeant Craig Pittman interrupts the announcers, and Pittman asks Heenan to manage him, but Heenan tells him he's retired. Also, the hell Fridge at? Because I thought this was his job, and he's not doing a good job here. But this is also probably one of the most legitimately sad bits that they do. And it kind of took some of the wind out of my sails, Joseph.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is really depressing because he's just like begging for help. And it's like, and to be fair, this bit is better than the bit from the next week because it's going to happen again with a different manager. I actually like what Heenan does, which Heenan goes, look, I no longer am a manager. I do this now, but if you want help, I'll try to help you find another manager, which I think is really, really well done from Heenan. Pittman then says if he doesn't get some help soon, he will take no prisoners. I wanted to give this segment an F because it's not good, but I thought about it. I kind of did some reflecting on it. They have not done anything with Pittman in as far as advancing a storyline for many, many weeks. They've tried to build him kind of off and on as this threat, and it really hasn't happened. So at least right here, they're saying, look, we got this talent. Let's try and do something with him. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to give it a D because from a storyline standpoint, they're trying something. Yes, that's, still below average. It's not great, but I didn't want to give it an F because I think there's an actual attempt being made here, and we'll just kind of see over the next few weeks how it goes.
The sad part to me is that, like you said, nothing's really happening for Craig Pittman. He's kind of on the downslope, and we don't really like him, honestly, as a character or even a wrestler. He's not that great, but I don't want to see a guy struggle, right? And I feel like this is kind of shooting. Like, he's not long for WCW, and I think some of this desperation is real. Yeah, obviously it's a gimmick, it's a storyline, but it makes me sad. Up next, though, is Lex Luger versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Accompany him is Scotty Riggs because they are the American males. Lex has got the Jimmy Hart in his corner. As you may have guessed, though, Lex Luger's going to win. He defeats Marcus Alexander Bagwell. 3 minutes, 8 seconds. Joseph, what do you think of the match?
There's not a whole lot to talk about, right? We all know who's going to win. Lex Luger is going to win. This is what I would say is a glorified squash match. I've been using that term a lot lately, and I'm going to keep going with it. It's a glorified squash match. It is not a squash match in the sense of we don't know who the competitor is. We know who Marcus Bagwell is. Marcus Bagwell has been, he's normally part of a tag team at this point, but they've been really letting him have some singles matches, kind of letting him kind of spread his wings. They're clearly, as a company, very high on him, as they should be. This gets a C+ for me. This is what you really want to see, to me, on a TV kind of match. If there's no storyline build, this is the kind of match I want to see, where we kind of have essentially a young up-and-comer versus an established wrestler, and they have a fine match. The match itself, there's nothing wrong with it. We know who's going to win. The person who's going to win should win, and they do win. But it doesn't make the competitor look anything worse. It gives him the ability to shine on TV for a little bit. He wasn't going to win at any point. So, we get in the weeds a lot as wrestling fans way in the future from this point, where we start saying, so-and-so should have won and so-and-so, and we all kind of do the armchair booking. And I think when you look at things like this, these are the simple things where even if you were a Marcus Bagwell fan, this is exactly what should have happened. I like the match. It's a fun match. It gets a C+ for me. It's not amazing. I'm not going to give it a B or anything higher, but it's a classic TV match.
Yeah, Lex is one of your headliners. He's going to be, he's not in the officially the main event at Starrcade, but he's in the main event that leads up to the main event at Starrcade. He's your main eventer. He's not going to lose to Marcus Alexander Bagwell, who I agree, WCW likes him. He's got a good look. He's certainly got the look, right? I don't know if he's the best wrestler in the world, but he's got the look that they want. So I can get that they want to start pushing him as a singles competitor a bit more. After that, though, we got Okerlund interviewing Luger and Hart. Luger says he's the real WCW champion. He has beat Randy Savage. It's his title. Joseph, I mean, that's pretty much it. But did you want to add anything to that before we move on?
I think the promo is fine. I actually really like how Lex starts it. He says, I'm breathless with anticipation, because he actually is out of breath because he just wrestled a match. And I think he starts it really well. He fumbles a little bit after that because it's Lex and that's what he's going to do. But it's a fine segment. It gets a C for me. It just moves along the story of what's going on, moves along the show. I liked it.
After that, we got Sting versus Earl Robert Eaton. And If you could guess the outcome of the last match, I'm sure you can guess the outcome of this one. Sting defeats the Earl in 3 minutes, 59 seconds, almost 4 minutes. So the Earl Robert Eaton gives him more of a run for his money than Marcus and Alexander Bagwell did for Lex. What do you think, Joseph?
Well, this is your boy, the Earl Robert Eaton. Scott loves the Earl Robert Eaton. Absolutely loves him.
Don't use my own gimmick against me. How dare you?
Sting
He's from Alabama. It doesn't make sense.
Sting is in all orange and black. He's been doing this a lot lately. I'm not overly fond of it. It gets a C+ for me from his outfit. This, like you said, you mentioned this. It's absolutely true. This is part 2 of the Luger match, essentially. This is the second version of the same match, right? We knew what was going to happen in the last match. We know what's going to happen in this match. The thing I like a little bit less about this match than I do the previous match is the previous match was a spotlight for Marcus Bagwell, and I think that's really good. Robert Eaton has been an established wrestler for a long time. Maybe not in this gimmick, but he is a known commodity. And this, even though it's still a glorified squash match, it's definitely not helping him the way it's helping Marcus Bagwell. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's fine. It's another TV type match. It's going to get a C+ for me for the same reasons I said with Luger. But I think if I were to give, just a little hair over, I'd say I preferred the Luger one just because it helps Bagwell's career.
I think in reality, both of these matches are not necessarily the match itself, but getting these guys on camera is to further a storyline, right? We had the interview after the last match where Lex says that he's really the WCW champion. He's beat Randy, he's beat everybody. He should be the champion. Because after this match, you get Sting interviewed by Mean Gene. Sting tells us that, well, A, he hasn't forgotten Flair's betrayal, but he's also got some beef with Lex here. He says Lex should stop talking smack. He should stop talking about how he's beat everybody because he hasn't beaten the Stinger. Trouble in Paradise, Joseph? Jimmy Hart's sinister plan coming to fruition?
What's funny is one of my notes is, are these the cracks? Are these the cracks in the friendship? This promo is way cleaner than Luger's, but it also really doesn't say anything. And Luger at least was trying to say some stuff. I don't really think anything gets accomplished in this. It's a C promo. It's definitely not Sting's best promo. Sting is one of those guys where I don't think Sting ever cuts a bad promo, but he doesn't regularly cut great promos. Like, he does cut great promos, but they're not every week. When he does, they're always bangers. Most of his promos are very much like this. They're kind of formulaic. They're very simple. They're kind of to the point, and they're fine. This is another Sting promo. It's fine. Not his best one. We've talked about better ones. We're going to see better ones. Again, we're just kind of moving along the show. And to your point earlier, this is continuing the kind of overall storyline of this triangle match that they're going to have. And I think that works really well. So I like that.
It makes sense. We're telling a story. We like that. It's been good. We now head into our main event, though, Joseph. But we have the Giant with Jimmy Hart and the Taskmaster versus Randy Savage for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. It is a 7-minute, 30-second match. Giant wrecks the Macho Man for much of the match, but Hogan runs in and breaks that up. He causes a DQ. He is not going to let the Giant get the win. Through all of it, the Giant defeats Randy Savage, but it's by DQ, so it doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good, everybody. Don't worry. Randy keeps the title. What did you think about the match, Joseph? And then all havoc breaks loose after.
So let's start with what Mach is wearing, which is important to go over. He's wearing neon pink, green, and orange, all on black. So black is kind of the base, and all that stuff is on top. God bless Macho Man. It looks so good. It gets an A from me. Mach attacks the Giant like he's the Dread Pirate Roberts. He does the same thing from Princess Bride, where he's, hanging kind of on the back, kind of doing a sleeper hold, but hanging on his back. It doesn't work. Mach tries to lift the Giant. That doesn't work. The Giant tries to launch off the top rope. That doesn't work. Then Mach hits the diving elbow, but the Giant tosses him off of him at the 2 count. Literally throws him. It's a really good spot. Giant eventually removes the outside floor padding and goes to suplex Randy Savage. As Savage is flipping over in the suplex, he grabs onto the ropes to prevent him continuing to get slammed down. And the Giant falls by himself. I don't think I've ever seen this spot before. It may have happened. If you know of it happening with somebody else, feel free to send us a clip or something. I'd love to see it. I've never seen this spot before. It's very creative. I really enjoyed it. Overall, this match to me, I had mentioned a few weeks ago that the Giant versus Scott Norton was the best Giant match we had seen. I'll say now this is probably the best match. Giant and Mach really tell a story in the ring. You mentioned Mach getting just destroyed by the Giant, as he should be, because the Giant is supposed to be this big force. This to me is probably the new best Giant match. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Like you said, Hogan comes out. He's rocking my favorite Hogan gear. You give me crap when I don't mention that. This is my favorite Hogan gear. I love it. And he hits the Giant with the chair. Then he throws the ref. So now it's a DQ finish. Eric Bischoff has a really good line where he says he's skating on proverbial thin ice here. He's alluding to Hogan having been fined previously, been put on probation, and now potentially he may get suspended. So he's kind of continuing that storyline. I think it's a really good line from Bischoff. Hogan starts throwing chair shots on everyone, and Mongo and William the Refrigerator Perry have to stop him. This whole segment gets an A+ for me. This match is a spectacle. It's fun for not only the television audience, but it's also fun for the live crowd. The sad thing is that this is really a cool story for Hogan. The crowd loves it. And I know WCW is going to just fumble the bag. This idea of Hogan so badly wanting a title shot, he's just going to run roughhouse on everybody. I actually really liked it. I think it could be fun. It really should be his heel turn, but it doesn't happen. The only negative I really have with this segment is that Mach has so far been depicted as kind of a weak champion. Almost every single one of his matches haven't really been won clean, or his title defenses rather. And this is another example. I don't know how you would have booked it to have him beat the Giant clean, because obviously what you've shown of the Giant so far. So it's a difficult situation. I don't necessarily blame booking or anything. It's a difficult situation to figure out. But this does continue he can't really win his matches on his own thing, which I think hurts Mach in the long run. It's not, that part isn't really very, very great to me. But overall, this is a spectacle. You get to watch Mach go crazy, do his thing. Giant gets to do some of the best wrestling he's done for sure. Giant looks like he's going to win because he's so capable and so big and athletic, and essentially is the favorite of any match he's in, right? Anybody should be the underdog going against him. And then you get to watch Hogan just kind of lose his mind.
You might find this hard to believe, but I agree. We agree a lot, so it's never surprising. We disagree every once in a while. We disagreed about the main event at In Your House until I showed you the light. Yeah, this is a good match. Obviously, Savage is doing what he needs to do. He's getting wrecked. He's supposed to get wrecked. That's kind of the point. I agree that he's not really winning much, which is kind of negative, but he is hurt. Honestly, he probably really shouldn't be the champion. He should be resting his arm, but it is what it is. He is the champion. The Giant is this unstoppable force. It's fine. Yeah, Hogan comes out and he just starts going off. He's hitting everybody with chairs. He's beating up everybody. He takes out the referee. And I think this is the same referee. Isn't this the same referee that cost him previously? He keeps hitting Randy Anderson. He keeps knocking this poor dude out for a bad call from the last pay-per-view. When his leg was under, or whatever, or he didn't go over the ropes. I can't remember the context, but I think that was Randy Anderson. And Randy Anderson, he's chair shotted poor Randy like 2 or 3 times now. Poor Randy. Man's just trying to do his job. He's got a wife and kids, as we find out later.
Yeah, poor Randy is going to continue, folks. It's going to be
a rough time. Yeah, you're right. The announcers are screaming about him violating his probation. He's hitting Giant a bunch of times. He hits Kevin Sullivan. He hits absolutely anyone who comes in the ring. It's good. But then I think it takes a turn for the negative, because we got Mean raging. And he's interviewing Hogan and Savage. And Hogan starts whining again. Says everyone's getting a title shot but him. Giant comes back out, though. And Hogan gives him a couple more chair shots, because why not? After that, though, Hogan whines again. He wants a title shot. He asks Randy, can I have a title shot? Boring. This new Hogan doesn't ask for title shots. He takes title shots. But Savage agrees. He says, yeah, I'll give you a title shot. But he has to survive Starrcade first. Hogan also now apparently has a beef with Mongo in the fridge because they said, hey, stop hitting absolutely everybody with chairs. Savage ends by asking Hogan for an autograph. He wants an autograph on the chair because he's going to sell it on the internet. He's going to sell it on the World Wide Web. Man, that Randy Savage, marketing genius. What'd you think about this, Joseph?
I think you'll be surprised to discover that I love this segment.
See, I disagree with you a little bit, but go ahead, because I disagree. I like Macho.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Hogan's a whiner. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So it starts off with Gene points out that Hogan's risking a lot, which I think is great from Gene. It's what he should be doing. Hogan says, I can't do a Hogan impression, so don't expect one. But he says, well, there's a lot of people on probation, brother. Is there? I think you're the only one. I don't know if that's supposed to mean anything like culturally at this time. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find anything. It's a very weird line.
Hogan, man, criminal justice warrior, man. He's talking about all the people, too many people incarcerated in this country. Wow.
Whoa.
Go ahead.
So, he points out that Ric Flair gets title match, the Giant gets title match. What about Hogan? Which is kind of the precursor to what about me? What about Raven? But we'll get there. Here's why this doesn't work, Scott, from Hogan's side. It's because this would be a phenomenal heel turn. If whiny Hogan resulted in, I'm going to destroy everybody until I get what I want, heel turn, we would be talking about how this is one of the best things going in wrestling history, let alone 1995. But he's a babyface who's whining, what about me? What about me? And it doesn't work. The Giant runs out and he's being held back and he's screaming, Hogan! It's hilarious. And then out of nowhere, Hogan just runs by and doinks him on the head with the chair. And I literally laughed out loud when it happened. I was like drinking something and I almost spit it out. It was so funny because he just it's like he's not in frame with the camera and all of a sudden runs by and goes, boop, and just hits him. And it's like, okay. And then Hogan starts swinging at everybody. I do have a theory right here, which is that Hogan has stolen most of Macho Man's career. And now he's stealing the unhinged gimmick too. But I'll just let that lie.
You ain't wrong. And for more, we go to Macho Man's disc track on his rap album. But anyway,
like you said, he says that then Macho is in a title match, and then Mach has a bunch of great lines here. I'm not going to quote the whole promo because it's a pretty lengthy promo. He does say, Hulk Hogan went little Looney Tunes, didn't he? Which is so good. And then Hogan won't let Mach do his promo. Like he immediately cuts him off. And you can see Mach like exasperated. Like he's very clearly, he tries not to let it get to him, but you can see he's just like, God damn it, again, just let me do my thing. Then he starts saying a bunch of stuff. Mach, goes back on the mic. He says, and then if and when I do, because I'm a positive thinker, which is hilarious, I have to get past Starrcade, Sting, Luger, and the Nature Boy gunning for me. And I even got Tenzan, Japanese superstar. So I even need to clear that hurdle too. But then right after that, the match the whole world, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and anywhere else is waiting for. Hulk Hogan versus the Macho Man. You got it. It's great. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. And then, like you mentioned, this actually made me laugh out loud too, which is he just goes, I need a favor from you, Hulkster. Will you do me one favor? And Hulk Hogan's like, yeah, I'll do you, whatever favor you want. Will you let me have that chair? Because I got a feeling that when I use this for memorabilia with the autograph of the Giant and Kevin Sullivan on it, I'm going to make a fortune. Oh, yeah. It's so good. It's hilarious. So to your point, earlier, I mentioned that I love this segment. I do love this segment. This segment has 2 grades. It gets an A for Mach, and it gets a D from Hogan.
I couldn't agree more that I think this would be a fantastic heel turn for Hogan if done right. And obviously Hogan's not going to do a heel turn. I mean, he kind of stops the heel turn here because he asks for a title shot, right? Heel Hogan don't ask for title shots. He takes them, as I said. But we want that kind of heel turn so bad. You and I love this heel turn. It's the heel turn we wanted for Cody Rhodes when he was in AEW. Heel Cody equals ratings. We wanted that heel turn so bad. The only guy I've seen do it like perfectly was Kurt Angle. When Kurt Angle did his heel turn, when he was the Olympian and people didn't like him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you don't like me?" And he just starts snapping everybody's legs, right? Like, I'll show you. Perfect. Hogan, you should have done it. We would have loved you. But instead, you wussy out and you just whine about it. And I don't like it. But Macho Man, much like Ric Flair, can do no wrong. Just do your thing, and I'm happy. I'm fine. So Macho Man saves it for me. It was great. I love how he's going to sell it on eBay or something. Okay, I like it. After that, though, we're done. Tune in next week to see Macho Man Randy Savage again defend his title, this time against Ric Flair. I'm actually excited for that. But before we get there, we got to get to something I'm not excited about. And that's WWF Raw, December 18th, 1995, at the Bob Carpenter Center in Newark, Delaware. And we start out with a banger. In Your House 5 highlights. Oh, boy. I don't think we need to say anything more about that. If you want to hear what we think about In Your House 5.
Were there highlights?
I guess. According to WWF, there were. That's all we got to say about that. If you want to hear more of our opinion on that, check the Patreon. We have a lot of thoughts. It was terrible. Newsflash. After that, though, we got a match. We got Jeff Jarrett. We got Fatu. Fatu loses. He gets defeated by Jeff Jarrett via a DQ. The 5-minute, 47-second match. Joseph, tell me about your boy Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
The match itself is fine. It's kind of a glorified squash match, just like we've been seeing with, Sting and Luger. The difference is that it ends in a disqualification, which I think, I don't know if that really helps anyone. It's whatever. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this, but I'm so down on the product right now that everything they're doing is making me question whether or not this is a good decision, which is sad, right? That's not a place you want to be in. I think Jeff Jarrett, look, the actual wrestling is very well done. There's a spot where like Jeff Jarrett's running the ropes and Fatu is doing like one move after another, like going for a chop and Jeff Jarrett ducks underneath, and he goes for his side kick and Jeff Jarrett ducks underneath, and a bunch of different things like that. It's like 3 or 4 moves in a row. And it's a lot of fun. I feel like Jeff Jarrett's trying to give Fatu as much, of a platform as he can, and that is fine. I feel like this might be the beginning of the end for the Fatu character, though, because they clearly either A, don't have faith in him, or B, don't really know what to do with him, or both. It's not going to be the end for the wrestler. He's obviously going to have a much better gimmick, and it's not the end for Fatu yet. He will be on for a while, but you can just feel that they're kind of losing momentum with him. But the wrestler will be fine, all things considered. This match is whatever. Got a C+ for me. It's not bad. I don't think I could give it anything less than I gave Sting and Lex Luger earlier on Nitro, because I think that would be really unfair. It got a C+ from me.
I think your point is spot on that this match is not a bad match. Jeff Jarrett, Fatu, good wrestlers. They wrestled a pretty good match, but compared to what I just saw in WCW, this ain't it. But there's more to come. Because after that, we got Doc Hendricks interviewing WWF President Gorilla Monsoon. And Gorilla apparently just decided that Jeff Jarrett's out of the Royal Rumble. Doesn't want him in there. Instead, he's got a match with Ahmed Johnson. And like I say, I like this angle with Gorilla Monsoon, where Gorilla Monsoon just does stuff because he thinks it will be neat. Where are you at on that? I need a neat from you.
Oh, I was muted and I didn't want to try to struggle to get it. Are you saying that it would have been really cool if I had joined you, or perhaps even neat?
It would. Thank you. Do you have thoughts on this, or should we just keep going?
It got to be for me. I thought you kind of touched on it. There's it's not a large segment. Gorilla Monsoon kills it in these kind of moments, and he does it again here.
I think it's a fun angle. Just I'm going to change it up because I want to. Go for it, Gorilla. Go for it. Goldust. We got Goldust up, and he says he has a special bond with Razor Ramon. Ooh, Joseph, what'd you think about this?
This is Goldust. This is, I don't know if it's the epitome of Goldust, but this is essentially the foundation of Goldust. This is the character. They figured it out by this point. He has a great line. You ooze machismo. Let's ooze it together. So good. We don't know what Goldust is. That's the point. We're not supposed to know if he's, gay or bisexual or straight or anything like that. They never ever call him one thing. They never say he's one thing. They do that intentionally because they know it could result in a lot of flack if they ever did. Obviously, in 1995, being one of those things is not looked upon very fairly. So it's easy to make that a heel character. Goldust runs wild with it. It's a great Goldust vignette. It continues their storyline. And actually, I believe on this night too, Razor's going to have a really fun segment that also continues the storyline. So I liked it. It got an A for me.
Yeah, Razor later on wants to make clear that he is not that thing that you are talking about. He is very clear, but we'll get there. Yeah, Goldust, great promo. Goldust, I love it. He's androgynous. That's what they like to say. And he's doing it here. He's doing Goldust. I'm a big fan of Goldust. After that, though, we are shown the Diesel Undertaker confrontation from In Your House. Undertaker is getting a title shot at Royal Rumble. Diesel thinks it should be him. There was a stare down. Ooh. And don't forget WrestleMania, the arcade game for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive for our friends in Europe, and the Sony PlayStation. Joseph, you buying?
100,000% buying.
You gotta have them. You gotta have them. And up next, we got a match. We got Buddy Landel versus Bob Holly. And this one is actually a surprise because I have no idea who's going to win this match because neither of them are their top talent. But Buddy defeats Bob Holly. 6 minutes, 51 seconds. Joseph, I know you got some background on this Buddy, who the announcers do absolutely nothing to explain.
Yeah, you're right. So I teased this in our In Your House podcast, which if you're not paying the $2 to listen to the pay-per-views, what are you doing? What are you doing with yourselves? I mean, you don't have to. It's up to you. I get it. People got bills, but we are doing all the pay-per-views. I think this is the week prior to Starrcade, so we'll be doing Starrcade. It's about a week and a half away, so Starrcade will be coming out soon too. So again, make sure that you're subscribing to that and you're chipping in $2 on Patreon. All of the episodes that are this type of episode where it's the weekly, those are free. So if you're using Patreon as a platform, you could still watch those or listen to those for free. You don't have to worry about paying $2 to get that content. But I wanted to talk about Buddy Landel, and I'm going to in just a second. And I teased it on the In Your House 5 pay-per-view, but I decided I was going to put it on here because I think it's kind of important to talk about. And I wanted to kind of give him his due. Buddy Landel has since passed on, so I wanted to kind of give him a moment here. Real quickly, though, talking about the match, Bob Holly's nickname is Sparkplug, so it's Bob Sparkplug Holly, and it's like, dude, Hot Rod Holly was right there. How was that not the name?
It would have been big.
Landel wins with a corkscrew elbow drop, which the announcers do tease as like, hey, there it is. There's his corkscrew elbow drop, like we should all know. Initially, when I was doing this, I know you kind of felt the same way. And I was looking at these at kind of Buddy Landel and the match that he has in Your House. It's a squash match. Spoilers, it's a squash match. And the match he has here, to me, they seemed like Ric Flair knockoffs or even potentially a shot from WWF against WCW and Ric Flair. This is because I was uneducated and I didn't know anything about the Buddy Landel character. So I ended up looking him up the other day because I was like, there's got to be something here, right? Like this is so overtly Ric Flair. What's the story? So Buddy Landel was actually the Nature Boy Buddy Landel in the early 80s. At the same time that the Nature Boy Ric Flair was around. Ric Flair had already been established here. And they are both, obviously, the Nature Boy is an homage to Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Nature Boy has not been only used by one wrestler. It probably won't be used again because it's now far too synonymous with Ric Flair. But at this time, it was something that people would do. They would there was a while where people really would kind of carry on a wrestler's tradition. Gorgeous George is a big one. You know, in the future, Mach actually buys the rights to the Gorgeous George name because that is such an influential wrestler to him. So these are traditions that kind of happened at this time. So Nature Boy Buddy Landel was another essentially Ric Flair version that was used to kind of be that. But he was also really, really talented, incredibly talented, to the point where they actually wanted to put the NWA strap on him in Jim Crockett Promotions. They wanted to make him their guy. He was, I believe, like their United States champion or something like that. He was actually utilized a lot. He had been selling out arenas, wrestling against Ric Flair, actually, and having this whole dynamic against each other, doing really, really good business. And it all kind of came crashing down. And that's unfortunately the story of Buddy Landel's career. I've got a lot of actual quotes from him. So everything I'm telling you right now comes from a 2009 interview via the YouTube channel Title Match Wrestling. This is where I got it. So if you question any of this, you can look up Buddy Landel Title Match Wrestling on YouTube. You can find these interviews. They're what are called shoot interviews. If you don't know what that is, somehow a work is something that is quote unquote fake. It's storyline. A shoot is something that is quote unquote real. Shoot interviews are very popular amongst fans because they really want to hear the gossip. That's what their purpose is. But this is an actual interview, and he talks about kind of his career. Buddy Landel was on a huge trajectory in the 1980s, even wrestling Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and Magnum TA. He was notoriously cocky. Quote, "I slid my bag across the floor and I would say, you know, lace them up tight tonight, guys. I'm here to take somebody's job. I was cocky. I was cocky about being good." When asked about his wrestling ability, here's another quote. "It came easy to me. I was 23 years old wrestling the heavyweight champion, in this case, Ric Flair. I was the one who screwed it up." So he actually gets pretty introspective here and really starts to look at the things that he did wrong. Per Landel, he was a notorious partier. JJ tried so hard to keep me out of trouble, end quote. Presumably this is JJ Dillon. He started taking cocaine to stay awake during long trips. Quote, "I had a love affair with coke," end quote. Per Landel, he was supposed to be the NWA heavyweight champion. Flair was taking time off, and he chose to ignore phone calls from Dusty Rhodes, who was booking for Jim Crockett Promotions at the time. When Dusty Rhodes did get a hold of him, he told him basically, "Don't fucking bother me." That's an actual quote, so I apologize. Then Jim Crockett called him, and he told him the exact same thing, and he hung up on Jim Crockett. When he finally chose to roll in, he was fired. So they were planning on putting the belt on him, and he decided to act like a child, basically, and it resulted in him getting fired. Eventually, he'd kind of, muddle through wrestling and, be in this promotion that eventually he would come to WWF, like we were obviously seeing at this point. Now, he came through with Smoky Mountain Wrestling, some of the wrestlers that Jim Cornette was bringing in from his promotion because Smoky Mountain Wrestling was folding. Obviously, we've talked about Sonny and Skip. This was another one that he decided he wanted to bring in. During his time in WWF, he would say, quote, "Vince was great. He treated me like $1 million." Now we kind of get to the weirdness of his squash match with replacing Shane Douglas. Here's what he had to say about that. Quote, "Shane Douglas was arguing with Vince in the dressing room about not wanting to work with Ahmed and that his back was hurting. I overheard it. Bruce Pritchard walked out and I said, 'Listen, Bruce, if y'all need someone to put Ahmed over, I'm your guy. I'll put him over in the middle of the ring,' end quote." After Vince verified it, going to Buddy Landel and making sure that he was cool with it, he then told Buddy Landel, quote, "Tomorrow on Raw, I'm going to put you over on Bob Holly," end quote. Presumably for doing a favor, he was going to do him a favor back. So this is why he wins this match. He wins it cleanly. It's a very good match as far as two wrestling, capable individuals. And then per Landel, he wrestled Matt Hardy the following Saturday on Superstars, which is true, but he hurt his back during the match. Wasn't critical, but he did hurt it. Gerald Briscoe approached him and told him Vince wanted him to do another favor. Landel asked what it was, and Briscoe informed him that Bob Backlund was refusing to put over the WWF champion Bret Hart. Would he do it instead? Landel agreed. Later that night, in front of the hotel, he slipped on some ice and hurt his knee and ended his career. So he has essentially 3 matches, maybe 4 total. There might have been like Superstars before this. the one in your house, for sure this one right here, and then on Superstars, and then his career is completely over. So this is all, again, you can find this all on the YouTube channel, Title Match Wrestling. Feel free to look it up. It's a much longer interview. I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, but this kind of sums up his time. We are not going to see him again on WWF. We're not going to see him anymore going forward, but I did want to talk about it. And for the reasons that I've kind of outlined, and his willingness to put over wrestlers, seemingly assuming what he's saying is true, for that reason, I'm going to give this a posthumous A.
That's beautiful, man. And may Buddy rest in peace, because I looked it up and he died in a car accident. Wow, this night is taking a turn, man. People's careers ending all over the place. Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman, Buddy Landel. Ugh. Well, hopefully the next segment will really bump things back up. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's Brother Love interviewing Ted DiBiase. Joseph, take it. I'm out.
My first note here is Scott is in heaven. So I had mentioned again on our Inner House pay-per-view special, and I'm not going to go into everything I said in there, but I'm out on $1 Million Corporation. I'm out on them. I don't, they're not doing, I went on a whole rant on that. I'm not going to go again. Go over there and listen to it. I don't like this. Essentially, this is Ted DiBiase saying that he not only bought Santa Claus, but that wasn't, in fact, the real Santa Claus. No way. We had no idea. You know who this is? You know who this is, Scott?
Well, I thought it was Santa Claus.
No, this is Santa Claus. He's from the South Pole, and he's now a member of the $1 Million Corporation. Kill me now. This gets an F-. It's horrible.
Let's move on, because A, we're running out of time, and B, let's move on. After that, Goldust comes out and sets up a chair by the entrance. He's accompanied by an usher. This is because the next match is Razor Ramon versus Yokozuna. Obviously, Goldust has a thing for Razor. During Razor's entrance, I thought was fun. We have the Goldust gold glitter kind of coming down from the top of the arena. Razor's gonna remember the name Goldust. But at first, he's got to have this match with Yokozuna. What happens? Well, the lights flicker. They have a match, but the lights start to flicker in the arena, and Undertaker and Paul Bearer come out to ringside with a casket. Yokozuna, he does not like this at all and is like, I'm going to head out. And then he gets counted out, and Razor defeats Yokozuna by count out to retain the WWF Intercontinental Championship. 8 minutes, 46 seconds. That was our main event. What do you think, Joseph?
I didn't like it.
I could guess.
I didn't like it because it wasn't an actual match. I think there was the Yokozuna topple over spot. That was kind of fun, where like Razor keeps hitting him and he's kind of like leaning back and then he finally falls down. That's fun. Yeah, I didn't like it. It was a bad match. It's just, this did no favors for anybody. Let's move on.
Yeah, the match was not good at all. I mean, I think Razor's a good wrestler, but he's good with like slams and stuff, and Yokozuna's a big dude, so he ain't doing a lot of that. So overall, it just was not a good match for anybody. No one could really show off, and then the finish was weird. And yeah, after that though, we got Raw Bowl coming January 1st. Joseph, I'm so excited, And then after that though, we got Doc Hendricks interviewing Razor Ramon, and he wants Goldust to know that he doesn't play that side of the fence, Chico. Razor is not gay. He is a man's man. Joseph, what did you think about this segment?
Well, I actually loved this, just like I didn't like the other one. I loved this segment. Razor agrees with Goldust's assessment of him being hot and so handsome. He says it's true. But he also says that Goldust can do his thing, assuming his thing is being gay, though it's never said.
Good guy Razor, though, man.
Just not
let your freak flag fly.
Yeah,
Razor says.
Razor is incredibly progressive.
You just can't do it with him.
Yeah, which, you know what? That's called establishing whether or not consent is there, and just moving on. Yeah, it's totally fine. I actually really do like the segment. I think it's great. It continues what they're doing. I'm totally fine with it. People could argue potentially, 2023. Oh, this is like anti-LGBT, cute. I don't agree. I don't think it is, but think it's fine. I think the segment's a lot of fun. Goldust is a lot of fun. When he gets to shine, it's a lot of fun. And Razor Ramon is a perfect person for him to be wrestling.
I agree with you. I thought the whole thing was good. You know, I'm surprised. I'm continuously kind of surprised by how bad some of the stuff is at this point, like WWF's treatment of women, but also how kind of surprisingly progressive they are on other things. Like, you know, I think the is he or isn't he gay thing, that's kind of that's the whole point. That's the Goldust thing. He's androgynous, you know, we don't know. But Razor's like, that's okay. You can do whatever you want. Just, you know, I'm not into that, so it's fine. It's surprisingly progressive for 1995, and I'm like, okay, I like it. But you know what I like even more than that, Joseph?
What's that, Scott?
This Shawn Michaels music video, and I know you have thoughts on it. Why don't you
tell me a lie?
Oh,
and say that you won't go. This got from me an A plus 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 F. Is bad.
Oh,
yeah, it's not good.
Oh, okay.
It's hilarious. It's ridiculous. Essentially, what we're talking about, folks, is they do a Shawn Michaels tribute music video, and somebody wrote a song that is not a real song. Like they didn't just license a song and put it in. Somebody wrote this song, and it is all over the place. It doesn't make any sense, and it's a tribute to Shawn Michaels, and it's supposed to be sad and sappy, and like he's never gonna wrestle again, and it misses the mark by a mile. It is not good.
Well, tune in the new year for the Raw Bowl, and we're out. Joseph, who won tonight?
Oh, I mean, with that alone, yeah, it was obviously WCW.
Yes. I don't think we need to go into detail about why. It's pretty clear, I think, if you listen to this whole podcast, why. But who won the ratings, Joseph? What did WWF do tonight?
WWF Raw got 2.3.
WCW got 2.7. So the fans agree. Nitro won the night. And with that, we're out of time. In fact, we're overtime. So we're probably going to cut some of this, folks, through the magic of editing. So you're going to hear this part and go, what? It was perfectly timed. Of course it was, because we're good at everything we do. Anyways.
Now I got to keep all this in.
And that's it, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey everybody, it's Joseph. Did you like this podcast? Well, we hope that you did, and also that you join us every Monday for new episodes. You can listen to us on Spotify, and soon we'll explore other platforms to bring you episodes of the Monday Night Wars. Did you listen to this podcast and think, pretty sure they're wrong about that? Well, let us know. You can email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And correct anything we messed up. Don't worry, you won't bruise our egos. You can also give us suggestions, follow the show, or even just reach out to us on the following platforms. On Twitter, you can reach us at MON Night Wars Pod. Again, MON Night Wars Pod. And on Instagram and Facebook, you can reach us at Monday Night Wars Podcast. And finally, if you feel like supporting this podcast and also getting bonus content, you can follow us on Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For the low price of $2 a month, you get every episode of the Monday Night Wars and also every breakdown of every WCW and WWF pay-per-view during this era, with more content to come. Again, and one last time, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. We'll see you next Monday back here on the Monday Night Wars podcast.